So, how does the narcissist suck in the new supply? The very first question before we answer that, how the narcissist sucks in the new supply, we should first of all answer the question, where does the new supply come from in the first place? First of all, there is two places the new supply is coming from. The new supply, the very biggest spot of the new supply is the fishing point of the new supply is the dating sites. So the narcissists usually, when they're with you in the relationship, they're already sniffing around for somebody new. So they're checking on dating sites and all these other social media sites for potential sources of supply. Secondly, the new supply is coming from friends, family, flying monkeys, all these other people who are actually enabling the narcissist. That is how the new supply is coming. That's where the new supply is coming from. Now, should the narcissist actually identify a potential supply in that, if for this matter they have found somebody who may have the potential actually to take your place, what they are going to do first of all is that they are going to carry out a very massive smear campaign. The new supply is sucked in because the narcissist massively smears your name to them. So they will go and meet those individuals and they will very definitely destroy your name as much as they can. So believe me or not, the new supply knows the food you eat at home. They know what time you go to bed. They know the hours you work. They know how much money you get. They know the clothes you wear. They know each and everything about you. They know even the details, the smallest details about you. The narcissist already told them each and everything about you. So most of the time when the new supply is coming into this partnership, it is not by coincidence. This whole thing has been playing in the background. The narcissist has been playing this thing from the side. It is just you who didn't know about this, but the new supply didn't fall from heaven. They have already been in the background. It's just because you couldn't see that. And most of the time it can take about a period of between 6 to 1 year before actually the narcissist is ready to bring in that source of supply. It takes a period of about 6. It's like that grooming period can take time. The grooming can take time. The grooming can take a period of about 6 to 1 year before the narcissist actually can decide that, okay, so now I'm going to bring in this person and actually discard you and bring in somebody new. That's why you see most of the discards that they have taken people by surprise. You wake up in the morning and all of a sudden the narcissist is asking you for a discard. They have discarded you actually, and just within hours you already look around and you see them with somebody new. It is not by coincidence. They have already programmed this. They have already scheduled this. They know what has been happening in the background. It's just you are the only person who did know about this. So the new supply is usually sucked in through smear campaign. They are definitely massively smearing your name. Whenever they meet those new supplies, they are massively smearing your name. So the new supply knows each and every single detail about you. And remember, and believe me guys, whether you want to believe it or not, it is not good news. Whatever it is they are smearing, they are telling the new supply, it is not always something good. So most of the cases, they are explaining all your flaws. They are detailing all your smallest flaws that you've been actually having with them. That is why the new supply usually is coming in as a lifesaver. So they are coming in like they are coming to save it. They are coming in to save the situation. They are coming in to save the narcissist. The narcissist is like, this is like a cry for help. Usually when somebody is smearing your name for this case, the NARC, when they are smearing your name, what they are actually doing is that they are actually crying for help. It's like they are actually telling the new supply that he or she should save them from you. They should actually come in and save them from you. That is the reason why they are doing the smear campaign. They want to actually soften up. It's like they're trying to soften up the new supply to make them come and scramble for them. Now they're coming in to save that situation because they are going to make it look like actually, if they don't get out there, things could actually get to the worst. So the narcissist is actually making it the point that the new supply, they're coming in as lifesavers. So what will happen is, after the discard, this is something I've seen myself, and it's actually confirmed to me the basic way, the actual way that the narcissist has used to suck in this new supply and to make them actually permanent in this situationship. So what will happen is that the narcissist will come in temporarily, but at the same time they're going to keep a tab on you. You see, after the discard, don't be fooled, people. Those individuals, they know, they are not very sure 100% that those individuals, the new supply, they're going to stay. So most of the cases, what they are doing, they're keeping a tab on you, but at the same time, they are with somebody new, but at the same time, they also want to follow up what is going on with you, because they know, should things not work out, Should things backfire on them, they have somebody else to run to. For that matter, the old source of supply, you who has been discarded. They want to have a place to run should things not work out with the new supply. So what they'll do, they keep on monitoring the both of you. They're monitoring the situation, what is going on with the new situation, and at the same time they're monitoring you on the side. What are you doing? Who are you seeing? Where are you going? How are you spending? So they are monitoring each and everything about you. And most of the cases, what the narcissist has done to make this thing actually is like to register the new supply as a permanent source of supply. What they have done, I've seen this happen myself. What they have done, because the new supply usually at some point like 3 or 4 months down the road, they are going to start seeing a couple of red flags. They are going to start seeing some few things with these individuals that they things that actually are not making sense. But you see, at the end of the day, the only thing all it takes is the narcissist actually to successfully trauma bond the new supply. That is all it takes. When the new supply is trauma bonded, believe me people, it does not matter how big they are, it does not matter how smart they are. If the trauma bond has kicked in, they are trapped. The same way you are trapped is the same way they were trapped. But you see, a trauma bond can take time. Some of the cases is not always people can get trauma bonded. Some people can see the signs and they're out of there before they get trauma bonded. So the new supply may be that person who can take a lot of time before they're trauma bonded. But what I've seen with my own eyes, the narcissist has actually discarded the new supply. When the new supply started asking questions, at some point in time, the new supply started asking questions. And the narcissist actually became insecure, and she thought that actually things were going to get to the worst, and actually she had to withdraw from this situation. And actually that's when actually she came in back for a hoover. That's when she came in to hoover me in that beginning time. So most of the cases, they can temporarily discard the new supply. It is just a temporary discard, because what they are doing in the background is like they are setting up a situation whereby the new supply should know behind their head that they have got competition. Remember, this new supply, they know that you are their competition. As much as you know that they are your competition, they also know that you are their competition. So this whole thing is like two people competing for a broken individual. You are two people competing for a dummy. The new supply is competing for the narc. You are also competing for the narc, because at that point you have already found out that they are dating somebody new. So what usually happens, they will discard temporarily that new source of supply and they will come and hoover you. During the hoover, people, I can guarantee you, between 2 weeks, they are going to love bomb you, and between 2-3 weeks, the devalue is going to be the worst devalue you have ever seen before. It is going to actually be worse than the first devalue you've ever received before the discard. So they are going to love bomb you for a couple of weeks and start to devalue you very, very seriously. And at the same time, remember, they are also keeping a tab on the new supply. So what will happen is, when the devalue starts, you have got to know the second discard is coming. A narcissist cannot discard somebody one time. They have got to discard you as long as they can, for as long as they need. When the second discard is coming, when the second devaluing happens, you have got to know there's a second discard coming at the end of the day. So you have got to start prepare yourself. If you don't know already, you have got to start to prepare yourself, because now they are also still going to bring in that new supply. So you see, this whole thing is a game. You know what I mean? The whole thing is a game. They are playing with you, and at the same time they are playing with the new supply. So there are two people now who are fighting for somebody who's already broken. There are two people fighting for a dummy. So what happens is, the new supply usually is sucked in because they have psychologically been manipulated to believe that they have got a very big competition ahead of them. The narcissists have set up a stage whereby the new supply now thinks they have got a very serious competition, and they really need to step up their game before the narcissist actually disappears, because they are already telling the new supply that if you don't do this, if you don't believe me, if you don't adhere to what I'm saying, if you're not listening closely, if you're not fighting hard enough, if you're not trying hard enough, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go back to my ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend for that matter. And the new supply, psychologically, they believe that there's a competition going on, and they're stepping in to compete. They are seriously competing. That's why you see most of the cases, the new supply has actually done things that you've never done before. They have come in and tried to do things that you've never done before. Because they are trying to prove to the narcissist that the narcissist has made the right decision to discard you and to take them in. So this whole things look like, okay, so it's all peaches and cream. They are doing actually much more than you did before when you're with them. So the sucking in happens in two ways. The sucking in happens through the smear. Very massively, the narcissist is going to smear your name. And during the smear campaign, that is when the new supply actually falls for the whole game. It's all a game, so they fall for it. and they believe that actually they should come in and save the situation as soon as they can. That is how they are sucked in. And secondly, they are sucked in a way that the NARC will try to perform a potential discard. So most of the cases, when you hear about the Hoover, most of you have heard about the Hoover. When they are coming in to Hoover you have got to remember that they have temporarily discarded the new supply. So when you ever see those guys coming back to you after a couple of months, 5 or 6 months, 4 months or whatever, you have got to know that there is somebody they are trying to discard. The new supply has been discarded temporarily. And the only thing they are coming in, they are not coming to Hoover you because they want to stay with you forever. No, they are just coming to Hoover you because they are trying to set up an imaginary situation, a psychological, they are trying to manipulate the new supply to believe that actually you are still a competition. And that is what is going to make them actually to step up their game. They are going to step up their game with the NARC. They are going to try to come in as hard as they can. This time they are going to come in very, very hard. You've seen most of you, those new supplies, they have come in and straight away they are buying the new supply, all these gifts and these. They are trying to do all those things that you have never done with the NARC, because they know you are their competition, and they have got to step up this competition as much as they can to convince the narcissists that actually they are worthy. But the only thing they don't know is that actually they are dealing with a very, very broken, toxic individual. For the ones of you who have stepped out of these partnerships, I can guarantee you people, when the Hoover comes, you have got to know. If you have been discarded and you get hoovered after 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it doesn't matter the period. You have got to know there is somebody being discarded on the background. So the narcissists are discarded the new supply and they are coming in temporarily. It's a temporary situation. It's going to take about 2, 3, 4 weeks. Then they are going to devalue you, and then they are going to now hoover the new source of supply. So this whole thing is a game. If you ever find yourself in the love triangle, people, you have got to step out. It's not worth it. If you're in the love triangle, you have got to know it's very dangerous and it's a very deadly game. You are playing with a very broken individual. You are playing with a dummy who doesn't value life. So at the end of the day, you are going to find yourself in very, very difficult circumstances. You have got to stay out. You have got to step out. This whole thing is a game. It's an illusion. The narcissist is just trying to play an illusion. There's nothing what is going on there. There's nothing true going on. It's all a game and it's all an illusion. So that is exactly how the new supply is actually sucked into a relationship with the narcissist, which actually later on causes a discard, you to get discarded, and later on you may also have a hoover. That means that there's a game happening between you and the new supply. The narcissist is discarding you because they're bringing in somebody new, but at the same time, if they have not yet registered that person as a permanent source of supply, they are also going to discard them and hoover you back into that relationship before actually they devalue you and again discard you and again hoover the new source of supply. So should you ever see this kind of things happening, people, you have got to put a stop to it. You have got to know this whole thing is a game. There's nothing going on. There's actually a very dirty game being played in the background, and you don't want to be a part of it. Guys, let me know in the section below if there's something I've forgotten. Other than that, people, it's been a lovely day to have you guys on board. Much love and blessings, and I'll catch you soon.